Let's do this. Let's talk about my birth story. It has taken me 2 months to be able to do this video, and I really want to do it because I want to be able to remember this. Nothing that happened that day is like I thought it was going to be. 37 weeks, I actually went to the doctor. She's like, would you like to schedule your birth? And I was like, oh, I can do that. I was like, yes, please, at 38 weeks, because if you guys didn't know, I had gestational diabetes. So they said that they didn't want me to go past my due date. They wanted to schedule me at 39 weeks actually. At 38 weeks I started having contractions, like a lot of contractions. So they woke me up, like contractions woke me up at 38 weeks, and it was 5 in the morning actually. And I remember this because my husband goes to work at 5 in the morning, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm having pain, and you know, like I've been having this pain. So he was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, just go to work, and if anything happens, I'll give you a call. Just be on your phone, you know, because he's never on his phone. And my mom was here that day because it was Friday, she was off, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness she was here. I felt more comfortable. I kept going with the contractions. I fall asleep, but I couldn't because they woke me up. So I was like, okay, let's just go have breakfast because I might go into labor. And I told my mom, let's have a good breakfast. And then nothing happened, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going. And they were just still there like previously, but you know, nothing to be like, okay, I'm dying, let's just go. Because the doctor have told me you have to wait until like you're dying until you come, because you've been having consistently contractions. So you know, now we just wait until you're really in pain. Then lunch came, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm having lunch. Let's just have a good lunch because I might go into labor. And then my mom was like, you sure you don't want to go now? Because I was having more pain than in the morning. I was like, it's fine, I'm not dying yet, it's okay. All this time I was in my bouncing ball, because I heard that that helps open you up. And then I was like, okay, let's bounce this out, and it really helped with the pain in my back and stuff like that. And then I was like, I finished my lunch, and 4 p.m. when I was like, it's coming, like this is labor pain, like these are contractions, and they are not fake contractions like Braxton Hicks, they are contractions. And my mom is like, okay, Maria, let's go. And I was like, it's 4, let me just like have dinner. And then she was like, are you kidding me? I was like, oh, I'm not dying yet, let me just have dinner, because if I go in there, they're not gonna let me. And I'm like, let's go for a walk, because if I go in there, they're not gonna let me eat or walk. She was like, okay, are you sure? I was like, yes. So I had dinner, and then we went for a walk. When I was walking, I literally had to stop every time, like I'm in pain. And she's like, okay, we need to go now. I called my husband, and I was like, babe, I'm going to the hospital, where are you? And he's like, I'm off, I just have to drive home. And I was like, okay, so we'll start going to the hospital, and then you meet us there. He was kind of worried too. So we started driving to the hospital, and on the way there I was like so nervous and in a lot of pain, like my mom had to drive. When we got there, they checked me in. They had no rooms. I was like, oh my gosh, because I didn't call. I called earlier, like around 11, and then when I went there I didn't call because I was like, okay, I already called, I mean, I'm going. When I was there, they were like, oh, I have to wait because there's no rooms. And I was actually in a lot of pain. So I was just there waiting, and then they got me in. They put me in another area in the same level of, you know, where all babies are, but they put me like in the back, like in the recovery room, because there was no room whatsoever. And I was like, what is this? Like, I went into the room, and there was like I think like 3 beds in that room, and then only were like separated by like a curtain, like this curtain, like this. So I was here and someone else was over there, and I was like, oh my gosh. So the nurse came in and then she told me to change. She checked me and I was 4 centimeters dilated. So I thought, oh my gosh, like this is great, because when I went to the doctor I was only 2.5. So they called the doctor and she was like, yeah, she's staying. I was having more contractions. It was getting painful because of COVID. I didn't know that when you go into the hospital, you're staying with the person that you went in, and no one else can come in. It was like, my husband's coming, and they were like, no, you already came with your mom and he cannot come in. I was like, no, he's coming in. Like, my mom is leaving, he's coming in. They were like, well, we'll see what we can do. I'm like, no, he's coming in. He came in and I was like, okay mom, just leave and then tell Paul to come in. And they were like, okay, it's fine, he can come in, but after that no one else can be switching. I was like, that's fine, he was working and that's why. My husband came in, I was already in the room. There was not doctor, well, my doctors, they were not in there because they were in another hospital with all the pregnant ladies that were having babies. And I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no doctor. There was only nurse coming in, and they were like, there's no doctor yet. The nurse checked me again because the doctor called. By this point, because I got to the hospital at 5 p.m. At this point it was 7, and then she checked me and I was 6 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, holy cow, like this is going fast. I asked for the monitor that you can still walk in the room, so they gave me that, and I was like just walking. They gave me the bouncing ball and I was like bouncing on it. At that point I was very in pain. I was very grumpy to Paul. I was, any little thing I would like scream at him or yell at him. I feel so bad now. But I was in pain. I was a lot of pain. That was a lot of pain, you guys. Like then I got this huge contraction. I was just like, give me that Epidural. And the nurse was like, okay. I was like, give it to me like now. And I was like, the contraction went away, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want the epidural. Or do I want it? I don't want it. The thing is that I was feeling so much pressure down there. I was feeling a lot of pressure, like if I wanted to poop. And I heard that when that happens, it's because it's almost time to push. And I'm like, oh my god, like I'm gonna be pushing, and like my baby is gonna like come out of me and like rip me off, and I just don't want to feel that. I was just so scared. At this point I was like shaking. I could not stop shaking. I was just like, babe, I can't stop shaking. I was just like this. It was just crazy. And then I was just, that's why I asked for the epidural. I was just scared. I was like, I'm sorry, I asked for the epidural. He was like, don't be sorry, I understand, you're in pain. When I asked for the epidural, it took a long time to get there. I was like, okay, when is it coming? And they were like, oh, we're calling him, he's coming. I was like, when? And then it took about an hour and a half, you guys. An hour and a half. I was like, you know, he came in, and well, before he came in, the nurse was like, let me check you again and see how much dilation you are. I was 8 centimeters dilated. Oh man, no wonder I was in so much pain. Like, I was in pain. I mean, I think it's not pain, it's like pressure, and it's a weird pressure. I don't know how to describe this, but you haven't had a baby, it's a very weird sensation to explain. But it's like a lot of pressure. It's like when you have your period cramps times a million times of pain or pressure. I have no idea what it is. But so I was already in a lot of pain, 8 centimeters, and I'm like, oh my god, holy cow, like I'm almost there. Should I just wait and not get the epidural? But then I felt bad because I already asked for it. They're gonna be like, what the, you know? And I'm like, let me just get it because I'm in pain. For our second baby, we're not gonna get it, you know? I can do it. So then they put me the epidural. The anesthesiology got there around 11:30. When he got there, I was in so much pain, having contractions like maybe less than a minute apart, and I'm just like shaking, and I'm like, I cannot do this. Like, how you gonna put the epidural if I'm shaking? Because he was like, you cannot move. And I'm like, oh my god, I cannot do this. And then the nurse put me in like this weird position like this in the bed, and like they like hold me tight. Like there were like two nurses, and the one was here and then the other one was here, and they were like holding me still, and I was like this. Like, it was painful to me, and it took a long time. I feel like he was like, I don't know, like it took a while. It took like 5 minutes or more. I'm like, everything's okay there? Like, what's going on? Like, are you done? And he was like, no. He was like very, like, he would not talk to me. The nurses were like, he's almost there, he's almost there. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Like, I thought it was gonna be like shh, bah, bah, and that's it. No, it took a while. He cleaned me, he like start putting it in, and like after it was in, like he took a long time to like tape it and stuff. I mean, I was okay because they said that he was actually one of the best anesthesiologists. He was done after like 15 minutes. I was like, oh wow, am I in labor or not? Like, I was fine, nothing hurt. And they were like, okay honey, just take a nap because you're gonna be pushing later on. And the nurse was like, so like, she was like, you're having this baby like today, or like early in the morning, like at 1 or 2. I was like, oh okay, you know. I was like, okay, let's just sleep, because I was so tired, because I was having pain since 5 in the morning, and it was already like 11:30, you know, p.m. The nurse came in the room like around 1 or 2, and she was like, the doctor say I have to check you again. And I'm like, okay. She went in, she's like, you're still at 8. I was like, oh, I thought I was gonna be 9, you know, because it's been like a couple hours from 11:30 to 2. And then she was like, oh, you still the same. And they were looking at the monitor. She was like, you still having contractions, we can see that. I was like, okay, so that haven't stopped. So they were concerned. They called the doctor saying that I still was in the same, and my water haven't broke. And the doctor was like, I want to break your water when I get there. And the doctor was still not in there. So she came in again at 5 in the morning, and I was still not dilated. I was still at 8. And they were like, okay, let's do something else. We're gonna give you Pitocin to help me with the contractions and like pains and stuff like that. And I was like, all right. They put Pitocin on me. Like, that makes you, I guess, have more pain or make the baby come out. I have no idea. And the doctor came in around 6 in the morning, and she was like, okay, let me check you. I was still at 8, and they were like, okay, let's time to break your water, because you're not progressing. They broke my water. That didn't hurt because I was numb from the epidural. I just felt like a lot of water, like a river. She came back around 9:30 to 10, and she was like, let me check you. And I was still nothing, you guys. I was so disappointed. I was like, what's going on? Like, why I'm not progressing? My water broke, like everything, you know, like we've done everything at this point. She was like, I have no idea why you're not progressing anymore. And then she was like, let's do something. Let's start pushing like if you're gonna have the baby. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. So she started checking me, and I was like push. And I was like, how do I push? Like, I don't know how to push. And she was like, just do like if you're like going to number 2. was like, okay. And then I started pushing, and then she was like, nothing's moving, the baby's not moving, the baby's head, it's just not moving, it's stuck and it's not coming out. And I'm like, so what? My husband started getting like really worried. She's like, I'm sorry, but we have to do a C-section. Just remember when she says that, and like, that's crazy. That's still hurting me to talk about it. I thought it was fine. Whew. Anyhow, so I just need a minute. Actually did this video because I thought I was gonna be able to talk about it, just remembering my husband's face, like so worried. I was so worried because they said that like C-sections like are hard, they're very hard in recovery, and I was just terrified of it. And so she told me that, and I was like, okay. The only thing I kept saying is like, okay. And then my husband's like, no, let's just wait. And then she's like, we cannot wait, like it's been a long time since she's not progressing, like 11:30 all the way till like 10. She's like, the baby cannot be in there anymore, and it's all because we want the baby to be okay. So I was like, yes, let's do it. My husband was like, okay. She was like, she got out of the room because we were like crying, and then she's like, we'll give you a little bit of time. And I was like, all right. And then the nurses start like getting everything in and out and stuff, while I was like calling my family and like letting them know. I was like calling my sister, I was calling my sister-in-law, my mom. So terrified about it. I had no idea why, because I never expected it, because I was always so active during my pregnancy. I was like still working, I was always on my feet, I was going for walks and all that stuff. So I never expected, you know, that to happen to me, because they say like being active helps you during labor. And when I got to the doctor, to the hospital, I was 4 centimeters later. Then I went from 4 to 8 in a short amount of time. So I was like, this is happening. And then all of a sudden they say it's not happening and we need to do an emergency C-section. Like, it shocked me. I was very sad, and I was so frustrated that I thought it was my fault, and I thought because I asked for the epidural everything stopped progressing. Doctor was like, no, it's not the epidural has nothing to do with this. And actually she was like, the epidural have nothing to do with this, it's just you're not opening more, the baby it's not fitting, because the baby was trying to come but she would not drop. All of a sudden, like, they come in and they're like, we're ready to do it, like, let's go. And I was like, oh my god, like, okay. They gave like this clothes for my husband to put on, and they were like, you're gonna wait outside after we like prep her to do the C-section and we're ready to start getting the baby out. You're gonna come in the room. They like rolled me to the surgical room, and I remember like going in there, and like everything was so bright, and like there was like these bright lights on my face and like everywhere. It was just terrifying. And they were like, okay, let's just do this. And then all of a sudden, like, I was like shaking still, a lot of shaking. There were like doctors coming in, the anesthesiology putting me more anesthesia. Everything happened so fast. Like, the doctor started like wiping me, my belly, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, are you sure like I'm numb? She's like, yeah, you're gonna be numb. It's like, because everything's happening so fast. The nurses were running around like getting stuff, and then they were like, okay, call the husband, like, we're ready. And I was like, already? Like, it's been like 2 minutes. And then they were like, we're ready. My husband came in, and like they put him like next to me on my face, and then they had covered myself so we wouldn't be able to see my belly. and the doctor started like cutting, and I could feel pressure, and I was like, are you cutting, are you cutting? She was like, yes. Can you feel it? I'm like, no. Are you sure I'm numb? She's like, can you feel it? I'm like, no, you're numb. It's like, okay. Everything happened so fast, you guys. Like maybe like in 5 minutes she was out, and then all of a sudden like they take her out of me and open the little like a little window on the thing that it was covering my face, and then I saw her, and like as soon as they took her out, like she started crying, and it was just so beautiful. And then I saw my husband, and then he just looked at her, and he's like starting to cry. He said he was crying because some babies, when it's C-section, they don't cry, and it's just very scary. And like she literally cried out loud, and I was like, okay. I was still shaking really bad. Like they put you in this position like this in the bed, flat, and I kept telling them like grab my arms because I'm shaking so much, you know. When they were trying to get her out, I just remember this nurse like putting her arms like this and like jumping on my belly, like on my ribs, like my ribs like hurt so much. And I was like, you're gonna break my ribs, you're gonna break my ribs. And she was like, they were like, don't worry, we're fine. Nothing, nobody was talking to me. I was like, it hurts, you're gonna break my ribs. And they kept just pushing, and like she kept jumping on my belly. I don't know why. And when the baby came out, and then the doctor was like, I am so happy that we did this C-section because the baby was stuck in the canal. Like she was literally, her head was stuck in there. That when she was born, like her head had like a little, she was like a little cone head because of it. Because she was trying to come out, but she would not come out. So she's like, I'm happy you got the epidural because you would be in so much pain all this time, and she would not have dropped. And I'm like, and if she did, something could have done wrong, like you know, like they can't breathe, or they have to break their shoulders and be able to come out. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I so happy this happened this way, and that she was healthy, and that even though it wasn't what I wanted or the experience I thought I was gonna have, like she was healthy, you know. It was definitely an experience that took us from surprise, and I would never ever forget. At the beginning I couldn't even think about my birth story or like to do it because I was like crying. I was just like, I cannot do this. And I'm like, today I'm like, okay, I'm ready to talk about it. And look what happened. Like I started crying a little bit though. Like I was much worse when that happened. So I'm just happy she's healthy and happy, and even though it's nothing like I thought it was gonna be, she is just so precious, and she's actually awake. So I'm gonna wrap up this video because I'm gonna show you guys. She's right away, she's watching the TV. She's so cute. I just have to say, for all these moms that are going to in labor, I don't know, even though you have a birth plan, like anything can happen, and as long as the baby and you are healthy, I think that's all that matters. Because at the end of the day, what matters is your baby's life and your life, no matter what happens. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that experience for all of you guys. And I never thought I could love somebody that much like I love her. That's all that matters to me, that she's with us and healthy. Okay, bye bye.